Okay, so this is homework, or sorry, not homework, the quiz number 11. So this is the NPV one from our test that we took. And so this one was a classic example of a problem you're going to break into pieces. And so you're looking for key things as you read through it that you can pull out. So you're bidding on the opportunity of a 21-year non-renewable agreement to provide fire tender services to a local landowner group. So that means it's going to be a terminating 21-year project. So we got that out of it, right? To do so, you'll need to buy a used tender truck. That's a truck with a water tank. And that's going to cost you $250,000. Boom. So that's a part. We're going to pay $250,000 up front. It's going to require annual maintenance expenditures of $1,500 a year, starting at the end of the first year. So we've got an annual series starting at the end of the first year, and an additional cost. So let's label these 1, 2, and an additional cost of $5,000 every fourth year. So we've got a periodic in 3. Starting at the end of the first year. So we know we have a situation like we had with the bulldozer in homework, what was that, 3, and like our grubbing juniper in homework 4, where we're going to have a perpetual periodic that does not get us magically to the first year. So we're going to have to deal with it. So that's part 3. Since the agreement would be non-renewable, the end of the 21-year lease, the resale value of my truck after the end of year 21 is going to be $35,000. So I've got a single payment out there. That's number 4. And I'm going to get annual revenue from the landowners of $40,000 a year for each of these 21 years. So that's 5, right? We see a 6% discount rate. What's the most we'd be willing to pay for this opportunity? So if we've read through it, we've got our different parts. We can now start to just divide and conquer. So, right, each individual part, we know how to do these. So, part 1, right, that's the purchase. And we're going to purchase it, and that one's pretty easy in that our VO does happen in year 1. So I don't even need a timeline for that necessarily. And that's negative $250,000. So that's that. Part 2 is going to be annual cost. Now I could combine these with my annual revenue, but I'm just going to keep it separate so we stay with 5 parts. So in that case, right, we have annual payments every year. Goes on for 20 years, and we want the present value. We want to know how much we'd be willing to pay for it. So we're into this equation right there. So I can write that equation down. That is VO equals A times 1 plus I to the T minus 1 over I 1 plus I to the T. And I'm going to do my known values over here. So this A is the annual payment, and that's equals minus 1,500. The I is our 6% that we have up there. And the T is the 21 years over which we're doing it. So you can, right, you see what these are down there. The T is the length of the time horizon, 21 years. The A is the amount of the recurring cost of payment. That's where we're getting that information from. So we have our values. We can now plug them in. And we have our A times 1.06 to the 21 minus 1. I got double brackets around that just to keep it super safe. 0.06, 1.06 to the 21. So got all that in there, and now I'm just going to calculate out what that value would be. So you had your spreadsheet, your calculator. You get a negative 17,646.11. Okay, so now we've got our annual costs. We're going to move on to part 3, which is our periodic cost. Yeah. There we go, periodic cost. My spelling is there. And so in this case, we've got 5,000 every year, every fourth year, starting at the end of the first year. So here's where I will use a timeline in doing it. So it's going to go on until year 21. The first one starts here at year 1, and I'm just going to use it as an A in every 4 years. So at 5, there's an A. At 9, there's an A. At 13, an A. At 17, an A. And at 21, an A. So I've got my terminating periodic in this case. So it's a series, n years, so I have an n there. I have a t that's, in this case, is it going to be 21? We'll talk about that when we get back there. And present value, it's this ugly thing we have down here. So since we've looked for it, I will write it in here. So our VO is going to be A 1 plus I to the T minus 1 over 1 plus I to the N minus 1 times 1 plus I to the T. And if I'm looking at this now, let's get into whether the 21 is what we want to use. So how many of these payments do we have in our series? Is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of them, and they're 4 years apart. So that's going to take me to what my T is. The total time frame here is going to be 24 years. And if I think about the beginning, it's back here at minus 3. So 24 years is the total length of this series. And we remember back to what we had, our VO, and is A, N, 2N, 3N, and on, right? In this case, being 1 year out, we are standing here with that payment coming 1 year out. So that's how we end up with this. This doesn't go on and on, but right, it was a terminating. But that's the beginning of the first payment here. And so that's why when we're doing this, we're looking back here, and it starts there, and it's 24 years. So it's 6 of these payments. Okay, the N is the period of the payments. That's 4, so every 4 years. The A, in this case, is the actual payment, is $5,000, or minus 5,000, and our I is 6%. And we can go ahead and plug that in. So we have our minus 5, I'll put a minus up there, 1,000, and we have 1.06 to the 24 minus 1 over 1.06 to the 4, that's our N, minus 1 times 1.06 to the 24. That's my equation. If I plug it in and get everything correct in my spreadsheet, I have negative 17,084.56. Okay, so onward to part 4. Part 4 here was that we're going to resell this thing at the end of the 21 years for $35,000. And so in this case, right, if we're thinking about a timeline for part 4, resale, it would be, that's where we are, there's 21 years, we're here, we want a VO, and we have 35,000 out there that we're going to sell it for. So it is quite simply the VO equals A over 1 plus I to the T. Just simple discounting. And in this case, our A is 35, 1, 2, 3, I is 6%, and the T is 21 years. So when I was grading these, or when I am grading these, I want to see timelines on all of them. So in this case, I'm kind of cheating a little bit, but I am giving timelines, I am giving this, I'm giving the parts that lead me, the grader, to see that we've got it. So plugging this in, 35,000 over 1.06 to the 21. right? And if I do a long equals here to get it out where I can see it a little better, that is 10,295.44. So that's my resale. The last thing is I'm actually going to get paid annually by these landowners. And again, this is another one that is a terminating annual. So it looks just like this one. So I'm going to just start with that. Part 5 is my annual revenue. Okay, and so when I'm looking at that, I'm going to do it a lot like I did this. I know that that's my equation and that these are my values. A is 40,000, I is 6%, and T is to 21 years. I got this equation here. I'm just going to go ahead and plug those values in because it's the same equation, and have my 40,000 times 1.06 to the 21 minus 1 over 0.06, 1.06 to the 21 on its own there. So, right, it looks a lot like this. I could have combined those, right, and I'd have that minus 1,500, so I would have been going through with the 38,500. That's fine in this case. So, there, if I did that right, I would end up with 470, 563.06. So, now I've got all my values in 1 year. And so I can do a total NPV, net present value. And I'm going to have 470, 563.06 plus 10,295.44 minus 17,084.56 minus this one up here, 17,646.11 minus, doing it down here, sorry, 25,250.123. And so my total NPV down here at the bottom is going to be 197.83. So long and drawn out, but if we divide it and conquer it just like we did in some of our homeworks, we can get there. I'm grading these as we go, and so I'm hoping to get that back to you soon, and of course lots of partial credit opportunities here. So hope that helps you guys. Have a good weekend, and I will see you on Wednesday.